Hello and welcome to the She is Courageous podcast, your weekly reminder that courage comes before confidence and mindset is where it starts. I'm Shelley Bosworth, business mindset coach, helping women to stop holding themselves back and start showing up boldly in business, work, and of course life. This podcast is your nudge to ditch the self-doubt, quieten the overthinking, and take action that builds real confidence. Because she is courageous and she is you. Hello and welcome back to the She is Courageous podcast. When did you last genuinely let someone else handle something? Fully let them without checking in, checking up, without redoing it, without continuing to carry the mental load of it even after you've handed it over. And I don't just mean at work, I mean anywhere. Whether that's at home, whether that's in a friendship group, whether that's in your business, in your career, a family thing, anything that you, in truth, absorb because it felt easier or more reliable or just yours to carry. When did you last just let someone else handle something? Because here's what I'm seeing more and more. And, I say this all the time. Everything I talk about on here comes from a place of my own reflections, learnings, evolution. There is definitely a particular kind of exhaustion that comes not from working too hard in the physical sense, but from carrying too much. And those two things are not the same, okay? You can be working reasonable hours and still be utterly depleted. Now, you can also be working unreasonable amounts of hours and be completely depleted. But I guess my point here is the load that we carry isn't just in the doing. There is so much load in thinking, planning, remembering, anticipating, being the one that everyone turns to across everything, all of the time. Now, if that resonates, this episode today is for you. Because I want to talk about why that happens, where it comes from, and what it's actually costing you, not just in energy, but in everything you say you want to build next. So let's get into it. Now, I also want to be upfront. This episode started, so I don't read from a script, I write notes. I have an idea for an episode and I start to write some notes that are basically my prompts and pointers to keep me on track. Otherwise, this wouldn't be the 30-minute type episodes that I'm always saying I want to maintain for you. But this episode started about delegation. I've been thinking an awful lot about leadership. Because, as I've said previously, a lot of my clients are kind of stepping into the next level of themselves. I'm stepping into the next level of my life and business. And so I was going to do an episode about delegation, about why letting go at work is so hard for so many women. And it is, by the way. But as I sat with that, I realised that actually that framing was too small. Because whilst that is undeniably a challenge, the women that I work with, the women who I think are listening to this podcast, you right now, you're not just carrying a lot at work. The women in my world are carrying a lot everywhere. And the pattern underneath is the same wherever it shows up. I'm often heard saying, if something is a challenge in your business, it's probably a challenge in your life, and vice versa. And so that's why I've decided to go broader with this. I want to talk about why you feel like you have to be the one that does it all. At work, at home, in your relationships, in your family, and what that belief is actually costing you at the level you are trying to get to. So let me name the pattern, if you like, first, because I think you will recognise it immediately. I know you're capable. Ladies listening, I know that you are driven. I know that you are building something or building a life. You've built a life, but you're building a life, or you're leading something that requires huge amounts of you. Maybe you've got children. We all know I don't have children. Maybe you've got a family, you've got a business, you've got a successful career. all of it is needing a huge amount of you. And somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, you became the person who holds it all together at work and outside of it. This is the pattern of women. And I don't like saying that, but it's true. Like, we're the one who remembers, the one who follows up, the one who picks up what gets dropped, the one who says yes when no would often be a better answer. It's women who absorb the extra thing because it feels easier than the conversation it would take to not absorb it. And as you're listening to this, I wonder if someone asked you why, if someone really pushed you on it, what would your answer be as to why you do that? Because my guess is it would be somewhere in the territory of, because if I don't, it won't get done, or it won't get done properly, or someone will be let down, or people will think less of me, or I will feel like I'm not enough, or maybe it's all of the above. And that's why this couldn't be just about delegation, because this isn't a workload problem, this is a belief problem. The belief that our worth is tied to what we carry. And if we let go of something, perhaps we let go of part of what makes us valuable. Now, that belief doesn't just come from nowhere. And understanding where it came from is the first step to doing something about it. Now, if you go back to any episode I've ever talked about limiting beliefs in, I have been known to say you don't need to know where the belief comes from. But in this instance, because I think this is such a widespread belief, I do want to talk about where it comes from. Because for a lot of women, this starts very early. Think about how you were raised. People in my age bracket, I'm 50 now. You know, when I was growing up 40 years ago, it was a very different world to the world of 2026. So, and even if you are not in my age bracket, maybe you're 10 years behind, maybe you're 2 decades behind me, but think about how you were raised. What was modelled? What was expected? Because children today are growing up watching mums go out to work and balance everything, which is probably a different conversation to me saying most children when I was growing up were watching mums at home and the starting of seeing mums go out to work as well. I was the oldest of 4 girls. There was a lot of helping at home. As the eldest, I was expected to lead by example. I was expected to support and help my mum. That's just how it was. And I'm not saying that as a complaint. It shaped me in ways that I really value, but it also wired something in me. Something in me always being the one who helps, me always being the one that takes charge, me being the one that people look up to or look at for example. I have become, am often the one who steps up, the one who holds things together. Not because someone's telling me to now, but that's what I learned. That doesn't just disappear when you grow up. So the first piece to really think about is, what did you witness when you were being raised? How were you raised? What was being modelled? What was expected of you? And then as you move into kind of the world we grew up in and the world we are still living in, a world that has told women for generations that they are the primary carers, the primary homemakers, the ones responsible for the emotional health of everyone around them. And I'm not sure that's changed much. I think it's shifted, but it hasn't disappeared. And every woman who's consciously, quietly rejected it often finds that it's still running in the background anyway. And then lay on top of that the women can have it all story that we're currently navigating and have been for quite some time. By the way, I believe women can have it all. I genuinely do. I believe every single one of you can have all of the things that you want to have. Do all the things you want to do, be all the things you want to be. I want to be really clear about that. I just don't believe that it's easy. I don't believe that you can make it all happen at the same time. I don't think it's as straightforward as the narrative makes it sound. But with that narrative, without meaning to, we've created a generation of women trying to prove they can do everything. At work, at home, brilliantly, simultaneously, and without dropping a thing. And then there's a final piece that I certainly see more and more, and I think it's been there under the surface for a while, and it's the proving piece. I think that so many women, particularly at this level of ambition, of drive, of capability, that are moving into next levels, that are achieving more and more, feel like they have something to prove. probably related to all of the things I've just mentioned and more. I think that there is this underlying message that we have to work harder, carry more, do more to be taken as seriously as someone who does not have to prove it all. And I don't want to say that is the other side of the gender equation, but I do think this is really real for women. I think the pressure is real, and it becomes one more reason to hold on to everything rather than let any of it go. Now, I want to get really specific because this pattern doesn't just show up in the obvious places. It's subtle, it's everywhere. And it's exhausting in a way that is often really hard to explain to someone who doesn't experience it. I know so many women who are brilliant, who have built incredible businesses, who lead teams, who are extraordinary at what they do, and they still can't say no to a family request. They still take on the mental load of running a household, even when there is someone else who's perfectly capable of sharing it. They still absorb the personal crises in the extended family, be that, we're all moving into times where we're dealing with losses of parents, family emergencies, relationship difficulties maybe. But they keep going, they absorb it and they keep going, they keep showing up. They keep holding everything together. I know so many women that do this, almost to the point of, yes, I'm going to say it, martyrdom. And nobody around them questions it because it's always been that way. That's the pattern. And it's not weakness. It is something that has been built so deeply in them that it doesn't even feel like a choice anymore. It just feels like who they are. And maybe it just feels like who you are, the one who always. It's got me thinking about other examples. Like, are you the one at work that always stays involved in things that in truth belong to someone else? Redoing work that wasn't good enough, unable to fully hand things over, needing to be across everything. This was me in the corporate world. I felt like I had to have a handle on everything. This feeling that if I stepped back, everything would fall apart. Not because I'm so incredible, but that would be a reflection of me. It would be my fault. Sometimes at home, it's being the one who remembers everything. The one who books all the appointments, plans the meals, manages the calendar, notices what needs doing because no one else ever notices, do they? Even when there is a partner who is willing and capable. The invisible load that lives in your head long after the working day has ended. Maybe you're the one who in relationships is always the one that holds the emotional space. Checks in, follows up, makes sure everyone is okay. The friend who shows up, the daughter who calls, the colleague who notices. All of it yours, all of it adding to the weight of what you're carrying. And the thing that always ties all of it together, the reason you are the one carrying it, it's not because no one else will. It is because somewhere, something in you does not fully believe you are allowed to put it down. And I say that with love. If I'm honest, I've been all of those at some point. The work one really resonates for me back in my corporate days. Always feeling like I had to be involved in everything. I had to keep a handle on everything. I had to have my finger in every single pie. I built a very strong career on being, said this just last week, the jack of all trades, master of nothing. But I was constantly exhausted, constantly taking on more responsibility than necessary. No one else was asking me to do that, although they soon did when they saw I was happy to do it, or seemingly happy to. But let's talk about the cost of that, because I think this is the conversation that we really need to have. We talk about burnout, we talk about stress, we talk about needing to slow down, but we do not talk about the specific cost of carrying everything in terms of what it prevents. And actually, I think that is equally as important. When you are operating at full capacity, carrying the load, when your mental and emotional energy is constantly being drawn on by everything and everyone around you, there is nothing left for bigger thinking. I am all for you achieving all the things you want to achieve. How can you do that if there is nothing left to give? There's no space for the strategic thinking, the visionary thinking, the kind of thinking that your next level actually requires. You cannot think clearly when you're depleted. You cannot lead well when you are carrying too much. You cannot make big decisions, bold decisions, brave, courageous decisions. You can't take considered risks or step into bigger visibility when you are running on empty. And that's what I want you to hear today. Of course I don't want you to burn out, I don't want you stressed, but I want you, not only do I not want you to feel those things, I want you to step onwards and upwards to all the things you dream of. Because if you do not address this, you will not get to those bigger things you say you want. Not because you're not capable, but because you will always be too depleted to reach for them. The load will always win. That's not a small thing, that is everything, and you have to hear that message today. So let's get into the root of this, because the behaviour, the carrying, the absorbing, the inability to let go, that's just the surface. It's always about the belief underneath. And for so many women, now I'm going to be a bit broad stroke here, because I can't tell you what your belief is. So I'm going to just share with you some of the obvious, very common things I hear. I hear things like, if I don't do it, it won't get done properly. If I let go, it will all fall apart. If I ask for help, people will think I can't cope. If I say no, I'll let someone down. I'll be letting someone down, and that's not okay. If I stop carrying all of this, I lose the thing that makes me valuable. Now, they're not the words that people use. What we're more likely to say is, if I stop carrying it, I won't be as useful. I wonder, do any of those sound familiar to you? Because let's be really honest, those are not rational assessments of a situation. They are beliefs about your own worth, and they are running everything. Beliefs are the hidden scripts underneath the story of your life. For many of us, carrying everything has been the way we have proved ourselves, to our families growing up, to the workplace, to ourselves. Doing more, holding more, being more. It's been the evidence we've used to justify our place in this world, to earn our worth. But worth that has to be earned through carrying is simply not sustainable. It's absolutely exhausting, and it has a ceiling. There is only so much that any one person can carry before it starts to cost them the very things they're working so hard to build. So if you do recognise yourself in any of this, if you are nodding or feeling a little called out, or maybe feeling a bit emotional because nobody has quite said it this way before, that's okay. None of this is ever about blame. It's not about what you should have done differently. It is only ever about understanding what has been running the show so that you can make a different choice from here. You didn't create this pattern, not consciously. It was handed to you. Most of our belief patterns are handed to us by our upbringing, by culture, by a world that has very specific expectations of what women specifically do, should, and carry and hold. You've just inherited that. And like everything we inherit, at some point we get to decide whether we keep it or not. You get to decide today. So here's what I want to offer you today. It's the belief underneath that's the work. I want you to identify one thing. I want you to really get honest with yourself about one thing that you are carrying that is not yours to carry, or certainly not yours to carry alone. Not necessarily just at work. Maybe it's in your life, your personal life. One thing that you have absorbed, taken on, held on to, because letting go of it felt perhaps impossible or certainly very uncomfortable and just not what you do. And then I want you to ask yourself a question. What would I need to believe about myself to put this down? Not how do I hand this over practically, not who do I give it to, but instead, what would I need to believe about myself, about my worth, about what happens to my value if I am not the one that carries this? Because that question and that answer, whatever comes up for you, that's where the real work is. That's the belief that's been driving the behaviour. And once you see it clearly, once you can name it, you can start to question whether it's actually true. I talk about this all the time. Catch, challenge, change. Is it really true that your value disappears or becomes less if you are not the one doing that? Is it true that everything falls apart if you let go? And even if it is it true that the world won't be okay as a result of it, or the people involved won't be? Is it true that asking for help means you can't cope? Is it true that asking for help means that you are not good enough? Because most of the time when you look at it directly, the answer is no. It's not true. It just feels true because you've been living by it for so long and telling yourself that is the truth. You are not just what you carry. You are so much more than that. And the sooner you start living like that's true, the sooner everything else becomes possible. The more that you want is there for the taking. But where's it going to go while you're holding on to everything else? This episode was one I needed to record for myself as much as for you, because I still catch myself in this pattern. I don't have children. I have a husband who genuinely does pull his weight, and yet I still find something in me that feels so often like I should be doing more, holding more, proving more, squeezing more in. That's not logic, that's just conditioning. And I'm working on it too. So if today has landed for you, if something in this episode has named something you've not been able to name before, share it. Share it with someone you trust, with a friend or a colleague, someone in your life who might be also carrying too much and doesn't know why. Or come find me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Tell me the one thing that you are going to put down as a result of listening to this episode. Tell me what you need to believe about yourself to do it. I genuinely want to know. These are the conversations that change things. These are the courageous conversations that will genuinely change the way that you move forward in the world. I'll see you next week.